So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Town of Elon Board of Aldermen regular meeting for the month of January on January 11th, 2022 to order. And we are going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. And today we are joined by Bailey Burris. She is a 12-year-old, almost 13. I know how important that is to say when you are almost 13. Almost 13-year-old from Western Middle School. She plays basketball, softball, volleyball, and is a member of the dance ministry at Elon First Baptist Church. And I know Pastor Wilkes is here to see her lead us in our pledge today. So if everyone will please stand, Bailey's going to come forward and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Bailey.
And you're quite the athlete, huh? 4 through sports.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keep it up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to the second item here on the agenda. I guess that's you, Diane.
Yes. The items on the consent agenda is letter A, Board of Aldermen's meeting minutes, December the 6th, 2021, the agenda session minutes, and December the 14th, 2021, the regular meeting minutes.
Do I have a motion to approve items on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say, oh wait, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a couple of presentations, with the first being the discussion of finance HR director position. And our town manager will share that with us.
Okay. 12, 13 years ago, when the town hired our Nancy Hager as our finance director, she was hired to be finance director. Over the period of time that she was here, she assumed more and more responsibilities of HR until she was in essence our HR director as well. Since she has left and we've been trying to fill that position, we have found that the cross-pollination of those two skills is very, very sparse indeed. We've had a couple qualified people from the finance side who have no HR experience and don't really have any desire. So what I would like to talk to the board about, and this actually was a recommendation that Misty made on her way out, was that we really need to separate these two positions. That one, those skill sets are not necessarily compatible or found in the same person. Two, overwhelming amount of work for one position. And so what my thought is to create roughly a half-time position of HR director or HR manager, whatever we will call it, who would be responsible for bringing new employees up to speed, policy development, reviewing our benefits, helping to coordinate insurances, the whole range of things, helping with disciplinary issues as needed. The whole range of things would come under HR. I'm not convinced that it needs a full-time position. And we may get into this and realize that there's too much for 20, 25 hours a week and we get through it and look at something down the road. But I think we'll be okay at halftime roughly. And so I'd like the board to consider that. Cost standpoint, I'm recommending that we come in at the same level as our town clerk, downtown coordinator. For the 20, 25 hours, it'd be roughly $38,000 a year. Plus the payroll taxes, things like that, that'd be about another 12,000 or so. I think for roughly $50,000, we should be okay with having a 20-25 hour position in the building that can deal with the HR needs that come up on a regular basis, not necessarily an everyday basis, but routinely enough that it's an awful lot to place onto somebody else who already has a full-time job. So if that board agrees, we would have two options. One would be to create it now and fund it for the rest of this year through a budget amendment, or let's put it in the upcoming budget year and fund it as of July 1. Between now and July, we would work with existing staff to cover those issues as they come up. So I wanted to bring that up for discussion and see what the board's thoughts are, or if we could, how we could move forward with this kind of an issue. If the board agrees that we'd immediately advertise for finance director, start that process over.
And a comment. She said that it was overwhelming. What was overwhelming? Was it the finance itself? Was it finance and the HR together? Because will the finance positions remain then full-time without the HR responsibility? So that means that gives that person more time to be able to do their work here. And so it'd be a little less cumbersome, or is that, you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. And I guess that my answer is finance director is a full-time position. Overseeing, the front end, helping with budgets, managing the money, balances, and all that coordination, I believe, is a full-time position. I think the HR duties ate into the capacity of a full-time finance director. I think it also led to not an 8 to 5 job. I think there were a lot of times when it was longer than that in order to accomplish the work that needed to be done because of the extra tasks that have been added into that position. Yeah, I think finance is still a full-time job. And that's what I'm saying. I think we can get by with roughly half-time. I don't think we need a full-time HR person at this point.
You would put 25 hours, which is a little.
Yeah.
But my question is, that could be hard to fill right now. I don't know. Maybe it would be great. Maybe we could find someone who's newly retired or. I don't know.
Newly retired, flexible hours. If it's, there's times when people like to work from 10 to 2 or 10 to 3, between school hours, that kind of a thing. 3 days a week. Those are all options that we would have open to us, and we're talking to people anyway, to be flexible on that kind of a schedule.
And we're okay within the budget. Kind of an adjustment.
It would require some additional funding. I mean, we don't have the money in the budget.
I know, but I'm just saying is we can afford it though, as.
We have sufficient funds in our fund balance that we could certainly afford this. I bring it up now because we are obviously entering budget season, and that will have an impact on next year's budget.
I got a couple of comments. Rich, I tend to agree with you. I think those two skill sets don't really are hard to find in one individual. And I guess the couple of questions we wanted, and I think, how would similar towns our size handle that? Obviously, we have roughly 60 full-time employees. And I also look at, you say you can handle the 25 hours, but what responsibilities do you do, does Pam do, and anybody else do, that most people would consider human resource related, meaning like recruiting? As far as the police department, what did her role take place in hiring and helping to manage some of the work done there? So I guess I'd like to say, let's think outside the box.
Sure.
I'm not saying we need a full-time employee to do that, but like health and wellness, we talked about that many times about creating a health and wellness program. Typically, that would fall under the human resources umbrella. So those are things that we're not currently doing. But I'd like to find out more about how other towns, similar size staffing, what they're doing. I didn't answer that didn't solve your problem right now. I think what you're looking for us to be able to do is, can you amend the job description so it's just finance related?
That, in essence, yeah. And we've gone through the advertising process, review process, interview process, and really didn't come with any candidates who fit the bill for what we were looking for.
My concern is, in most organizations, the human resource person is a key person. And you're saying, well, they're gonna work 20 hours a week. If somebody has a problem, there's an issue, you're gonna call them in. So being available from an HR standpoint is, to me, is really important. And if you say, well, you gotta wait till Wednesday when that person comes in, the issue is pressing, and that person needs to be able to keep you on the tracks to know what issues they need to be aware of as far as practices, employees, issues, and so forth. And, you know, and I can see where Misty really got overwhelmed with that. It's just,
I mean, and you're right. There are things that happen that need immediate action. You know, there's an on the job injury that needs to be reported. That process needs to happen.
I mean, it's not like, I mean, it's,
That's an HR duty, but that's a task that other people
our
can
staff is one of the most valuable resources we have as a town. It's not like having a mechanic that comes in and fixes a broken equipment. HR person, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with individuals that there's nothing you can, if you hired a contract person, essentially that's what they'd be, a contract person.
To some extent, yeah.
I don't know why you give them full-time benefits if you only work 20 hours, 25 hours. So,
You wouldn't.
and then you've got the situation of finding that person who's working those arrangements. And that's that. I don't know. I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody.
Yeah. I'm in the process now on time folks, just in general, for
Yep.
something not nearly as important as that. And it's very difficult. Not to say we couldn't do it, but I personally would lean more towards a full-time position, just because I think that is such an important position. And, you know, of course, Misty was kind of the default person when when we've been doing this, obviously, and it makes sense why we would want to split that up. And I think you're finding just the market now clearly doesn't combine those two.
Yeah.
Now, have you kind of back in on Lonnie's point, do we know all other municipalities having part-time, or is that unusual? Or
I can't answer. I don't know.
yeah, I was just curious from there. I think you'd have an awful hard time finding someone, unless they're retired, that would want to do that and be competent at doing that. I think it would be very difficult to do it. Obviously, we would save a little money. In the long run, if we're trying to make sure we have a solid person in there, I'm not sure personally that that's a route we need to go. I would say more full-time. I know it's going to be more expensive, clearly, but that's just my thought.
Right? It sounds like there's an immediate need here to break this apart. And my question is, how is HR being taken care of right now in the absence? I know you've been working hard to kind of work with the finances, but what about the HR needs? Who's taking care of that right now? Is that you or?
We haven't had any specific HR needs.
Yet, say yet. Just say yet.
Knocked wood.
You got that, that's right.
We have contingency plans of people who know how to file their 24-hour report if somebody gets hurt. So that kind of immediate stuff we can take care of. In the budget process, I'm going to be comparing, cost to benefits, looking at healthcare plans and other avenues to achieve that. So what normally would have been HR person's job, I'll be doing that as part of the budget process. Likewise, all the payroll costs and stuff like that. Templates are there, so we'll be working with that to get that done.
It just seems to me that we need to release the positions at the very beginning without maybe establishing what the HR. Maybe we need a little bit more time to maybe work out the details for that. Because if we're talking between part-time and full-time, some other ideas, that might take just a little bit more. And, you know, he's got you wanting to investigate other towns, but you still have the problem of getting a finance director. So my sense is that maybe one of our more immediate actions is to break those two apart and leave the HR position more under study right now, and then you can get back with us on that.
I don't think there necessarily has to be a formal vote to split that position. I'm looking for guidance though, because I'm putting together the budget for next year. Because I'm trying to fill positions this year. I would like to split those two positions into two jobs. And if one is a full-time, one's a part-time, they're both full-time, that HR position, we can develop that over the next month or so as we're going into budget so that we know what we're looking at.
That makes sense to me. I don't know if we're not gonna take an official vote, that makes sense to me, and I don't know if anyone else has a.
Well, I think too, there's just so much that is constantly evolving in both of the worlds. And so much that they have to be able to know from the state level that's changing. And I mean, it's definitely more complicated than it was 12 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, even 2 years
The
ago.
last 2 years have been really hard on HR directors.
Yeah.
Trying to learn all the new rules and guidances and everything.
So any thoughts over here?
Is there a set standard pay for the finance director? Is that have any wiggle room that we could then leverage over into the position for HR?
There's a pay range. I mean, all our positions are in grades and classifications. There's a minimum, a median, and a max. Those numbers change annually with our cost of living increases, but there is a range.
So if we're looking at having somebody that's strictly in finance and that job position was originally for finance and HR, it seems as though you could lower that, not the range, but do it on the lower end and then not completely make up for the difference, but maybe that would give you a little more wiggle room to work with for a full-time HR person.
There might be some savings with a new finance director. I mean, that depends on who comes in.
Right, you don't know who you're gonna get and how competitive the market is right now for that position.
Yeah, so, you know, I hesitate to say, yes, we'll be bringing somebody in at entry level and saving that money,
Sure.
we can put in this other job. Hopefully by the time the budget's done, we'll know the answer, and there may be some savings there.
I do tend to agree with Randy in the sense that, you know, I hate for anybody in y'all's position to be overwhelmed by finance one, but especially HR, because you're not just dealing with what Lonnie said, you know, our most important are people, but you're also getting into liability issues by having more than one person having knowledge about HR issues. By spreading it out among a lot of people, it just makes it more difficult for them and also for maintaining people's confidentiality throughout the, you know, the town. So, and you're in a tough position right now, but I do think perhaps splitting those two positions, and getting that finance person in here, and then we can maybe vote or decide later on whether we want to do HR part-time.
Yeah, I mean, and that'll be a budget discussion.
Sure.
You know, unless we decide we want to try and fill it ASAP, you know, that which would require a vote to, you know, get the funding. If we don't do an amendment to fund it now, and it goes into next year's budget, that'll be part of the discussion that you all have.
What do you guys think? Also, this is just off the cuff, but what do you think about still listing the finance position, but then also listing the HR position as, say, part-time or possibility of full-time, and just see who we get? Or is that not kosher as far as being able to post it that way?
Well, I'd hate to put it out there, not pull the trigger if we get somebody.
Okay.
I don't want to raise expectations or.
Okay. I just thought it would give us at least a feel for who's
Yeah.
out there looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have some time. I mean, it's not like it's mission critical to have an HR person January or February, maybe March, right? Obviously, we're making do right now since December. Things could change, as you said, Emily, but I'd like for us to consider allowing you to reduce that down just to finance responsibilities. allow you to go after it, because to me, that's the most important role we, the town, have to fill. And I think we can develop what our strategy is on HR as we move along. I think you've been able to handle anything now. You've got Pam now, you've got Mary Catherine. So we do have some people that can help take some of the load off of you if you have to dedicate more time to HR. But I think it's important that we have a strategy.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, Monty. Obviously you right now, Rich, having to do the finance part of the town,
Part of the finance.
part of the finance.
Kathy has taken on the lion's share.
And Kathy taking on the lion's share. Once we get that finance, I think that is the most important part for us right now. And then just like you said, we haven't had, knock on wood, any HR issues yet. And when I'm looking at the position, and I understand it, but was Ms. Haygood dealing with disciplinary reviews, or was that town manager?
I was involved in several of them. Some of them don't go beyond department heads,
Okay,
quite frankly. The ones that do, it would be a combination of myself and Misty.
okay.
So I was involved in some of those major disciplinary issues where it depends on the department, I guess.
Well, so that's my point being is, I think we can, like Monty was saying, we can split up some of those HR responsibilities. Because I think other smaller towns don't really have a full-time HR person. I think we don't need one, but I think we should get our finance first, and then we look into how our HR can, if we need that other person. But definitely, I guess, so currently when you're looking for a finance director, you're looking to see if they had HR background as well.
Right.
Okay.
And that's part of the job description. And so if somebody who's really into finance read that, I'm not interested in, OSHA 300 logs and benefit reviews and blah, 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 blah. They didn't apply perhaps.
Staff does a great job, and you already worked a lot. Pam has been worked a lot. We get Miss Catherine coming in. So there's no doubt, and I don't want to put more on the plate of staff. But it's clear, even with this recommendation of even looking for a part-time HR person, that it doesn't seem that, from your perspective, that it's a full-time position quite yet. So with that in thought, I personally feel I want to go with the finance director without the HR, and then we figure out how it kind of plays out. Do you know how many HR, when Monty said, it can't be part-time because we might need to be called in. How many, is there a numerical number of how many times something like that happened in the past year where somebody had to rush to get a hold of Misty to deal with an HR issue?
I suspect there were a handful of times where somebody got hurt, say on a Saturday, and had to either not necessarily come in, but do the injury report from home. That happens.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying, the responsibility of the job just kind of grew, and
Misty was handling all of it.
and Misty was saying,
So I think that there's a consensus that we want to go ahead and post I don't think we need to vote on this, right? Go ahead and post the finance position as solely finance. And can we see what you can find during the February meeting about, other similar towns? What does that HR position look like?
reach out and find out.
What other municipalities are doing for those roles? And then kind of what you think in terms of, do we think that this is a 20 to 25-hour role? Do we think this is a full-time role? Is it going to be a full-time role in a year? And if so, we probably need to go ahead and look at that, because you don't want to hire someone part-time and then they're like, hold on, I only wanted a part-time job. And I think we could actually probably find a candidate who wants to work part-time. I think a lot of people are kind of pulling back and saying, I'm done with this hamster wheel and, working 50 hours a week. But you know, I do think that we really need to hire for what we need. And so does everyone agree that we'll discuss the HR position more next month?
Yeah, I think we've already tasked him with a couple of things, so, yeah.
So
time to
Rich,
do that.
obviously you posted this job now, finance director. Is there a title that says finance director / HR?
Yeah.
So if you post it again, is that going to basically get the attention of those people that kind of passed over?
Hope so.
So you'll have to post it with finance director.
Finance director, job description is there. We'll take out the HR stuff so that it's clear that this is, you know, just a finance person.
Do you have any candidates that were good for finance but not HR? Callbacks?
Do we need to be careful about?
Sadly.
Okay, moving on. Any other thoughts on this before we go? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Elon Public Facing Developmental Map. This will be presented by our planning department, Pam and Mary Catherine.
Just Mary Catherine tonight. She's been working hard on this. This is one of the things that we talked about, just a brief introduction, that she had done in a community where she interned before she came here. And it's something that has been on my wish list for a long time. And then she needs to share her screen. And so in between learning the other things that she's been learning since she's been here, she's been moving some of her time to this as she's been able, and she's just going to give a brief demonstration of what this looks like. And this will be something that will help with informing the public about what our department does and projects that are going on in the town.
I'm still not able to share.
Share screen. Speaker. Let me talk to you.
It's not on the.
You're muted. And you should be able to share as a. Give it a chance to connect. There you are.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time tonight. I am really excited to share this. I am a planner, but I also love GIS and map making and data analysis. So this was an idea that I kind of brought over from a previous internship that I did, and I thought it would really help. We wanted to make information more transparent for the public and for them to be able to access basic information that they could kind of do it on their own. Not that we don't like talking to people and giving them information, but we want them to be able to, you know, access it whenever they need to and not have to wait on us and get back and forth. So this is a map of the developments of Elon, and of course it'll stay updated. I'll upkeep it and make sure all the developments as they come in get added onto the map. So I just wanted to give a basic overview and then open it up for questions at the end. So this, the public, when they see it, will just kind of get this without the additional layers. They won't be able to edit or anything. That will be up to, like me and Pam will be the only ones that will be able to edit the information, but they will be able to have access. And so it's pretty simple. It'll be part of a website, and there will be instructions on how to use the map on the website, screenshots and really good details. So it's just basically you click on, there's a couple, it makes it look like Pam said that it made Elon look really small, but we just wanted to be able to make the icons big enough to where it'd be easy to see where everything is. Yeah.
Thanks.
There will be an address bar where they can search. So right now the data was too dense to be able to see it, but if you do scroll in addition to the development projects, people will have access to parcel information. They'll be able to see all the basic information, the PIN, parcel number. This would be really good for appraisers and realtors and people like that who are trying to get the that kind of information. So for the development projects, we'll just start with this one. This is the Elon University Engineering Building. So every single star will have the name, the location, the date that it was started and the permit was applied for, the applicant, the status, we have like in review, approved, and under construction. And then the land use type, the zoning, the PIN number, and then we will have the site plan. And so they'll be able to go into this and click on, and it'll come up as a downloadable PDF. And so for the engineering building, we just have the renderings. And then,
So that's information that's provided to us as the town. And give them permission to post it publicly.
yes.
It was all public, right?
Mary Catherine, is there a description of what the project, I had to have the right screen on. A description of what the project is, size, scope, 40,000 square foot of classroom space or 22 units of housing. I mean,
That can be, there's a comment section. We can add that to the comment section if
What
you.
about the permit? Obviously, with the permit, you have to file an estimated amount what the value is of the project, right?
Mhm.
Is that included as well?
No, it is not included on this.
And I'm not sure that's important, but it's obviously public information, right? And I guess when you say a project, if someone were building a home, a residential home, individual home, would that be on there too? Because there's a permit, right?
Yes, so those would not be, this is kind of like the major developments.
Okay, when you say major, where's the break off line where?
I think new subdivisions would
Okay.
be a good place to start with that.
Okay.
That's actually what this is down here. This is the Twin Lakes community, that large area.
Building. So it would be for residential, what we would expect to do, because the map can get really busy really fast, would be for subdivisions and then non-residential development, which would be projects that the university are undertaking or any commercial projects or.
When will the star drop off? When the project's completed?
I haven't talked about that, but I was thinking maybe like set a time limit, maybe a year after it is completed. Just in case anyone's going back in there. I don't know if you think it needs to be on there longer or, but I think a year is a good enough time limit for it to be on there and then it would drop
think-
off.
I'd leave it on it until it got too crowded.
We want it to be current. We want people to be able to look at it and say, oh, well, this is something new. I'd like to see this. And projects that are completed, of course, all of that information is still available here. And we could make any details of it available. This comes down to sort of discerning what makes sense as a starting point for people who are curious about what's going on or who have a particular interest in a particular project or property. And they can easily access this and get a lot more information than they can currently get without requesting more. And of course, anything that, she was just showing both the site plan and the architectural renderings for the engineering building. There are, the construction document set probably has almost 40 pages to it. So if they're interested in something more regarding utilities or stormwater or something like that, we certainly make that available. But there has to be that sort of judgment call about what's good for a starting point for people to have a look at. This is certainly a lot more than what they're able to get this easily now. And so we're very happy to be able to provide that. And then when would we say this is complete? Let's pull it off the map. And I would personally like to be able to look at the map and kind of see how busy is Elon? How busy is the development community in Elon right now? And so if a project stays on too long after it's closed out, I think it might give a false impression of, what's really happening here. This is all open for discussion, of course, this has not been made public yet. And she's been working hard on it, and I think it's at a point where it could be, but we can make any tweaks. We basically wanted to inform you of what we've been working on. Mary Catherine has really been working on this almost exclusively, and let you know that it will be going live soon. And we're certainly happy to make any tweaks that you you think would benefit it.
Well, you brought up a very important word, easy. And I think being informative, being too easy for some, because, maybe sometimes you can have too much information that's too easy to get. I like the idea of not necessarily giving all that until someone actually calls and follows up. So I like what she's done so far. I really like how this is.
And thank you for that. And I think it does serve a need. We do get a lot of calls from realtors and appraisers about particular properties, and even just what she was showing for just the parcel information. They can get some of that from the county's GIS website, but they can't easily get the zoning district. And that is that's one of the check boxes that the appraisers need to check, so they can get that through this map instead.
There's no street view or satellite view, is it? Like you see, like Google does.
They will be able to change the base layer. So the base layer is just this where you can see the roads. They'll be able to change to satellite view if they want to.
I think this is,
No, but like topography is obviously important. If you're a developer, like what does the land look like? Is it all wooded or is it swampland?
So the satellite view would give them at least the most recent aerial photography that would give them that information. As far as topography,
You can get that on the
get that from
GIS.
the county's GIS, and it's pretty effective on that map, because you're also not looking specifically at these sort of development points on that map.
I think it's a great tool. I think I commend you for looking at it. I also want to commend, it's the first time I think I've seen you from your eyes down. So I'm glad that Rich allowed her.
You might recognize her if you see her somewhere else.
If
You're walking down the street,
I
yeah.
passed you in the street one day, you didn't say hi.
You know what? I didn't say hi.
I had a question.
so I think this is a great and valuable tool for us, and thank you. One thing that I think we could really simplify it as far as whether a project's done came to me right when you said, put a check by it. So you could have either a shovel or keep the star when you're working on it. And then when the project's done, you could simply turn it into a check mark. And when you click onto it, it could have the date that it started and the date that it ended. And so that way you would know what project happened there, and you could see an overall progression of when we have these projects happen, and ones that are completed and ones that are still being worked on. Just a thought. Yeah.
What's the one on the top left?
It's Wexford subdivision.
That's the major subdivision at Manning and Gibsonville.
Okay, that's the Eastwood Homes one.
Yes.
Okay,
And
I was gonna ask you about
can
that.
we get to the site plan on that one?
Does any other Alamance County municipality have something like this?
That's a really good question. I sure hope not.
Me too.
So it certainly, larger communities, this is not an uncommon tool to make available to the public. Staffing, having the staff and the staff with the skills to do it is the trick there, and we are fortunate enough to have that.
Yeah, when I was developing this idea, I looked a lot at the one that Durham has in Raleigh, and theirs is way more complex. It has like all the levels of the zoning, and it has all the developments, and they're all different, like they're all different icons. And I thought that it would be, we could make that type of website in the future, but for right now, this would be a good.
So if a resident want to see what zone they're living now,
Mhm.
how, can you show an example? Like, if like you want to see like Emily's house, what zone does it show?
Let's look up Monty's house.
Same zone.
They have access to, there's a zoning map for Alamance County as well, isn't there?
No. I mean, we have our zoning map. Alamance County parcels that are in the county actually are unzoned because they don't have any zoning districts there. I don't think they make our zoning available on their GIS. They have a category that I think confuses most people, but it doesn't pull out our zoning districts.
I'm used to seeing those whiteboards we used to have on the wall, and those are always helpful to see where the zones were, residential, what was
Right,
which was,
right.
Well, I'm gonna click on a specific house. and see what it gives me. Okay. That is the information they'll get. The owners, state zip code, appraisal, PIN, number of acres.
And so part of this is developing this is to help alleviate phone calls, right? From just busy calls of people asking for information. Is there a way to just talk with Alamance County so it can also be a link on Alamance County's GIS? Because I would assume developers go there first, and when they can't find the information, now they're calling you guys up.
Yeah, we can certainly talk with them about it. She's correct. We don't mind taking those calls. I mean, we talked about it the other day. I've got one appraiser who all he ever wants to know is the zoning district, and I would be happy to send him the map and say, hey, you can figure this out, but I've never done it. I don't mind, it's just a real quick email and I respond to him. But, I think the more, you can have too much information, but I think the more transparency and the more pertinent information that we make available, the better. And we're certainly happy to see if they would put a link to that. And then the trick with what she just showed with pulling up each parcel is that data comes from the county. Is that correct? And because they don't have our zoning district in their data set, she would have to go into every parcel within the boundary and add that information. Might be a really long-term project, but could happen. And we make our zoning map available. We really don't have that many zoning districts, but our zoning map is on our website, and we can certainly make that available too.
I think this is great. Is
Yeah,
there
I think
any
it's
plan to how you're gonna launch it?
Party.
So how soon do you think it's gonna happen, though? You think it's gonna be within the next month or two, or?
I think it's ready, isn't it?
Yes, it's ready.
Ready to go.
well, and I think it looks terrific, and I think there's a lot of good information on there, and Pam, you mentioned earlier, simpler sometimes is a good thing, and I think what we can do is, as you get feedback from appraisers, developers, people just looking at that, then you can maybe make adjustments based upon that. But I do think that this is an awesome tool. It really is.
Good job.
It really helped. It did. In my previous job, it helped a lot. That's
How
cool.
quick is it for you to, a new development happens, how quick is it for you to put a new star on there?
Like 3 minutes.
Cool.
But that's why I'm gonna type up instructions on how to maintain this. Because the only reason why it takes me 3 minutes is because I know how to do it. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna leave instructions with whoever comes after me to.
How long does it take Pam to make a star?
I don't know, Pam, how long?
Well, it took Mary Catherine just a few minutes to make all the changes that I asked her to make to it. And that's how Pam makes a star.
Excellent work.
It shouldn't be too difficult. It's not like super, you just have to, I have experience with the software. So, but once you get more experience with it, it's not difficult.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any questions, comments? Thanks, Mary Catherine.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on.
so while you have a survey out on our website?
Yes.
You want to just give that a quick promo so that anybody who may be watching who doesn't work for the town?
Yeah. We are talking about kind of incorporating, potentially incorporating public transportation into Elon, kind of hooking up with Link Transit. And so there's a public survey. You can find it on our website, and it's just for anyone who has, it talks about like the transportation that people use, how much they depend on their cars, how willing they would be. And I think getting that feedback is gonna be really integral to kind of gauging how much we need, because the Link Transit is like a stop basis. It's not set routes. And so I think the survey is really important for people to do, because we have to know what people need in the community, and because it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, we have intended to come to the board with just get your guidance on what you feel like the importance of that system might be to Elon, but we wanted to see if we could get some feedback from the public first before we brought that to you. This was presented to Elon some years ago when the system was first initiated, and Elon elected to not participate. This will be a cost to the town because the ridership is free. And so we'd like to present a proposal to you for your consideration, but have some public input to add
Find
to
out
it.
what the needs are.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was on the site today and saw that.
it's really, it was really great. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if I should as an alderman, I wasn't sure if that was, 'cause we would probably have voice another time, but I could go ahead and fill it out, yeah, and I'll encourage people to do that.
Please do.
We already had a lot of really good feedback. It ranges. Some people are just like, no, don't do this. Why are you wasting my money? And yeah, but then some people are like, yeah, we would use it. It'd be a great alternative and, save the environment. Just what I would like to do.
And it does have a route in Gibsonville, so we could
So
easily,
it's already essentially going through
It goes to
Elon.
Gibsonville, it goes down Westbrook.
you guys are, yeah.
And I actually see people from Elon walking down Forest View to catch it.
Is that right?
Is it stop basis?
I hope you'll fill out the survey, Monty.
So if we have,
It's by miles and you can decide if you go into neighborhoods or if you just go to like focal points in the community.
Yeah, so Gibsonville has some designated stops, and that's what we would expect to have here. The cost to us is based on the miles. And then they would need to make some decisions in Burlington on their own budget about whether they would need new equipment to service.
I mean, are we talking 25,000 or $250,000 a year?
The cost that Gibsonville pays is much closer to the 25,000.
And they have one stop?
No, they have multiple, they have 4 or 5 stops.
And that was the approximate cost when we were approached as a town to participate, and we opted not to.
We were told by Burlington that it would be the same as what was proposed initially. Thanks, Rich.
Alright. Moving on to public comments. Are there any residents of the town or even visitors who wish to share any comments about the town or what they'd like to see in the town? Anybody online? All right, we will close the public comment section. New business, discussion of dates and format for annual retreat. Rich? For me? Somebody? Speak up.
We had mentioned a while back about our annual retreat and a little bit of a discussion, and I think in conversations with the mayor, we thought, let's bring it back so we can actually get something nailed down as far as what we're doing, when we want to do it, what we want to accomplish. And so really the questions are obviously dates and times. Are we looking to have a one-day retreat where we talk about goals, priorities, and budgets? There was discussion about a 2-day retreat that would include some training for board members. If we want to do that, what are those training things that the board members feel we need to be bringing to you? We need to, I will say at this point in time, we'll probably really pushing it to try and find somebody who's available to do any kind of facilitation if we're going to have our meeting in February, because those people get pretty busy this time of year. But that would be, do we want to try and have it facilitated? Is there something we're trying to accomplish? So it really is, again, another discussion item to let us know when we need to establish this and schedule it and what we're trying to accomplish.
So just to open it up, in terms of a retreat, just to give a little bit of background for Stephanie and Randy's information. So typically during the retreat, each department head shares kind of their goals, not always for the year. It's kind of like their wish list. So, what they would like to see happen, what's important to that department, and then that kind of guides the decision-making when it comes to the budget. For me, and this is my own personal opinion, I always feel like the event is rushed. I feel like we never get to everything that we want to get to. And I also think that, especially when we have new board members, that we do need to have some time, where we're just kind of gathering. It's still a public forum, but, for us to talk about our own priorities, what are our priorities as public servants, so that we can better understand that in developing our own working relationships, but also our relationships with the town staff and with the things that are going to be coming up for vote over the next year. So my initial thought was that we should at least have a day and a half, obviously understanding that we all work and it's difficult. So maybe we have to split it up, or maybe we do like a Thursday afternoon and a Friday during the day, just so that we have those opportunities. And then my other thought was that maybe Mark has, I don't know, but none of us have actually had a training on what should we be doing when we sit up here? How should we be interacting? What are the rules? Sometimes it's like, are we allowed to talk about that? Are we not allowed to talk about that? There's just some things that I don't think that we're not 100% clear on. And like, for example, like, what can we discuss, without legal being present? What can we discuss? What do we do in that quasi judicial situation? Or when does it become that? So
part of that, I think, is the fact that after going to the 2-day seminar from the North Carolina municipalities, one of the things that we don't do that everybody else there that was attending is have our lawyer present. And I've never met our lawyer, don't know our lawyer. And that's one of our responsibilities as a board, is to oversee the lawyer and their duties. And so, to me, that's something that needs to be addressed as to why we don't have them, or when we need to have them, to be able to answer those questions. Because even a town as small as 2,000 has theirs on a regular basis. So that's just the feedback that I got, because they kept bringing it up over and over and over again. They're like, and speak to your lawyer for every item that was brought up. And I just haven't asked, like, well, who? And everybody raised their hands. So it's just.
do you just want to address that at all, or?
When I, early in my career, when I worked in New Jersey, every board, every meeting had their attorney sitting there. When I went to Maine, we had our attorney present by invitation when necessary. The last job I had in Maine, after the elections, the attorneys usually would come talk about the board's roles, responsibilities, that kind of thing. And then they'd show up at our annual town meeting. I don't know if the communities that you were attending with had professional managers.
They did. They were all
Okay.
a manager. Yeah, they were all a manager.
I
And it wasn't to downplay the role that you do. It was they called them the two rails of the road, and they would compare it to having the town manager help on one side,
Yeah.
and have the balance of power, not power, but structure of the attorney on the other side. And so it was two rails to keep you focused down the road. And a lot of it had to do with fiduciary duties and different things that they said that, it put a lot of responsibility on the town manager when you don't have it. And then also some of the questions that Mayor Sharp brought up about, when do we do this? When do we do that sort of thing? So I didn't mean to take us off course. That was just something that was.
mean, that's the kind of thing we want to talk about. So, yeah.
When you had a 1-day retreat, what was the time frame for that?
Like 8 to 5.
Say 9 to 4, 8, yeah, I mean, it's all
Maybe 9
day.
to 4.
So you're thinking like do, like almost kind of an after work, like a 5 o'clock till like maybe 9 o'clock. and then Get up in the next morning and come over at 9 and do a whole day.
I was thinking like 12:30 to 5 on a Thursday and then,
Let me throw this out. I think a 1.5 day is warranted. I really do. I think what we've done in the past, we've tried to cram it in there. And I thought about this a lot. I think if we use the first day, a full day, to listen to the department heads, a half a day spent with the town manager and assistant town manager to really absorb and talk about what we got out of that.
In other words, backwards, you do the full day first.
Yeah, I think to hear what's been presented, and then collectively, we talk about it. And that's something we never did because we went through it, we listened, we went to the next person. And then it was like, okay, what do we do next? And we had no direction. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that first full day should be really a fact-finding gather meeting with those parties there, and that's a full day. Then you make a half day. I think you could do that in a half day. You could sum it up. What's going to be our direction going forward? We never have done that since I've been on board, and I think that's where we kind of miss.
I agree with you, Monty. I think it should be full day first. And I hate to make staff work, but I'm not opposed to having a full day Friday and then doing the half day with us on Saturday with the main town staff. I guess town manager.
Maine, I'm the only one from Maine.
But like not our department heads, right? Because they did that on Friday. But I agree. I want to, because I think if we did a half a day first, we'd be rushing through that half a day and things might get staggered in between. Where I think the full day we can get everything, and then that half day coming back, then we can talk about our goals. We can hopefully have that whole day to digest what all the department heads said. And again, I'm not opposed to a Saturday. I know we all work. I'll make it work however we have to do it. But you know, a full day Thursday, then a half day Friday, basically 2 full days. Because I mean, I'm not going back to work at 12.
I just don't want to ask the staff person that we're going to say.
Agreed. I mean, I understand.
I think we can figure out 2 days, whether that's a Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever.
I'll buy you donuts.
I still, I'm fine either way. I mean,
I am too, and I'd go on to say that before I came to Elon, my experience was that it was done all day on a Saturday. And while it was a lot to ask from staff, it's such an important day for department heads to be able to make the board aware of what their needs are. That I think if it came down to a half a day or a full day on
You
Saturday.
two on Saturday won't matter.
That's right.
we got Diane too.
I'll be there too, keeping track of what we say.
And I don't mind.
So you're
So,
saying you don't want to do a Friday, you'd like to do the whole day on like a Friday, and then maybe like the Saturday would be our half day or. whatever kind
If
of-
everybody agree, I'm easy to work with. That's how I would envision it.
I
But
love
if-
breakfast food, so I'm all for a morning on a Saturday.
And if we did that, you know, I would buy the food for the staff. Well, I think that we could all pitch in and buy staff food for Saturday.
Even back to what you said as far as the training is concerned, I've never had any of that, none. So I think that's a really good idea. There's a lot of stuff from there. We kind of learn on the fly, to be honest with you, which is not necessarily the best way to do it. Yeah, we do have the training. I hadn't been to the training in a while. Stephanie and Randy get y'all been, but
Only for the end of the month. Are you coming to the one on the end of the month?
Online.
Yeah.
but I think that's a good idea.
I think we miss a lot of opportunities. There's training there that's available from Chapel Hill,
Mhm.
and I think we're all guilty. We're all busy, but I think we have the ability to do a lot of this online. I think we have to invest in it as ourselves as board members, whether it's talking about transportation, whether it's talking about quality or whatever. We have to invest into it. That's what our citizens expect us to do. And rather than try to bring somebody here that becomes expensive, I think we could better serve
Yeah.
our educational enrichment through that.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's emails that are sent from the League of Municipalities, the School of Government, where we can take classes and learn. As far as like Robert's Rules of Order, I had to get a Diane to read about it. And a lot of it is on the flag. It's hard to teach situational stuff. But yeah, I think we could talk about it, but I don't know if there's a way to really just lay it out there of what they're supposed to do, because the training tells you what we're supposed to do.
Right.
That we all go to when you get elected. And then Diane's sending us emails constantly asking us to sign up for classes. And so I think it's up to us to do that. And the town pays for those. So, I mean, it's still a matter of time. I'm guilty of not taking some, but I've also, my first year, I took a lot of them online. That was the joys of COVID was
Yeah.
You're able to do it online.
I could do everything on Zoom.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's not necessarily like the essentials of municipal government that I'm talking about. It's more so like there actually is a training about like the board working together and, you know, discussing difficult topics and, but also just, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Kind of just like the rules of engagement, I guess, you know, not the essentials essentially, you know, of what you can and can't do as an elected official, but you know, what we actually do during this meeting. I think that was kind of my thought process, is just to better understand it, because Mayor Tully did an excellent job, but he also started 30 some years ago, and things probably should be different just because times have changed, but I don't know, that we don't know.
Let me just add one quick question. I'm not asking for a long answer, but what kinds of things could a facilitator do for us? Would that be a whole nother category? Would that be like a whole nother way of approaching the retreat than what you're hearing here?
I think the training could be totally separate from the retreat. I think that, in my opinion, I have personally not found a facilitator to be as valuable as what we pay for.
I agree with that.
I think that it's certainly something that the group of people in this room can certainly handle, unless it's not something that they're comfortable with doing. You know, I think a facilitator is really beneficial when it's a group of people who maybe doesn't work good together, or if there's some really like hard hitting topics that we need to discuss. I don't think that that's what our retreat is.
Brainstorming or something like that.
Yeah, but I even think that Pam and Rich could probably handle a brainstorming session, even when you're thinking about, are we gonna pay thousands of dollars for this? I don't know how much we pay, but a facilitator. I mean, it is a lot of money, and
Well, she was neat last year. I enjoyed her, but I agree. I think y'all do it.
I'd be willing to try without it.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done it without it.
Well, we didn't do one in 20. We did not have a facilitator in 20.
I don't even remember.
That was at
2020.
Twins.
We were at Twin Lakes.
I don't even remember last week at this point, so.
And then for 20, we didn't have one. It was your first one at Twin Lakes. And then in 21, we had it on Zoom with the facilitator.
Yeah,
We had to put our dots.
yes.
And nobody put dots.
I do not remember that to save my life.
Does the town close for? So you have right now, I'm lucky, my calendar's wide open on Fridays.
Fridays are great for
The
me.
18th and the 25th of February are both wide open.
Randy, go right into dates.
Well, it's just if we don't get more practical, we're gonna be here all day. And I'm just thinking that the 18th. and the
Where's our
25th
facilitator?
He got his training from Jerry Tolley.
I'm
We are
very-
over our time limit.
I've done a lot of moderating stuff, yeah, but no, but just the idea is, if we start looking and close this in, making sure, because giving up a Saturday is never easy. So, and that's why I just want to make sure,
You don't know my 6-year-old.
No,
Giving
you
up a
got the
Saturday
right,
is
that's right.
easy.
That's right. So, that like, so either do the 18th and 19th, 25th, 26th. I just don't know if the 11th and the 12th would be too early, I think it would give us a little bit of time.
I can do the 25th, and I think I can do the 26th.
I can do the 25th and the 26th.
I don't have my personal calendar, but there's nothing on it, so.
I'll do whatever y'all want me to do.
What about you, Monty? How flexible? You flexible?
I'll be flexible as well.
Then why don't we do the 25th and the 26th?
Does that
Did we
work?
just really put a date down in person right now? 3 minutes? Because normally it's a survey that goes out with a bunch of different dates and
Well, let's make sure that it works for the staff.
Does that work for department heads to do a Friday?
On, for that Friday?
No, to do any Friday. I don't know if Fridays are good or bad for department heads. We got one department head sitting over here. I don't know.
Two.
Oh, you got two. That's right. Okay.
Are we talking about January or
February.
Okay, never mind.
Nobody that I'm aware of at this point is out on the 25th. Or even has any conflicts on the 25th. At least not out of the office, and I don't track them for the 26th, but
Okay.
we can do full day on the 25th and morning on the 26th. Breakfast.
You're talking like a 9 to 1, like a 9 to 1 or 9 to 12:30.
I got you.
How many, did you, because you were talking, you were almost implying a 5-hour
8 to
half day. So would you like to do like an 8 to?
What about like,
8:30 to 5 on Thursday, on a Friday.
oh, okay, yeah.
Is that the staff?
8 o'clock to 12 on
about-
Saturday.
Yes.
8 o'clock
Let's
to
do
12?
8 to 12.
8 to 12.
Yeah.
That's really early on a Saturday, but
Yeah,
that's.
I'm with it.
that's the best way to use your time. That's right.
I'd rather do it early on.
No, don't waste the
So
day.
you said 8:30 to what day on, what time?
Let's
on
do
Saturday?
8:30 to 4:30,
8:30, 4:30 on
so
Friday.
that staff can come back to town hall if needed, and then,
You think they're coming back for half an hour?
Yeah, they're not gonna.
okay, 8:30 to
I say we'll-
4:30 on the
I
25th,
think we'll leave it to-
8 to 12.
What location?
Well, that gives them time now to set up a location.
Now we'll have to find a place.
Yeah, they have to find-
That's my part. Okay.
Yeah, we'll-
Diane's got it handled.
We'll find a place and we'll arrange lunch on Friday and coffee mid-morning and probably snacks first thing in the morning on Friday and.
She said breakfast food, so she wants.
Breakfast on Saturday, yes.
Don't waste me on breakfast. We all eat breakfast before we come.
What are you talking about? I don't eat
On
breakfast
Saturday?
before 8 a.m.
On Saturday.
In the budget that you all worked on.
Well, we won't eat breakfast that day, that's.
We
Some of us
can
will
bring
eat two
breakfast.
breakfasts.
You know what?
right.
The mayor will get up and make homemade muffins. How about that? Watch me,
From a box.
or my mother will. Okay, we're off the rails. Okay, we feel
Always an
good.
attorney when you need them, right?
That's right.
So we have dates. Friday, we are going to have department heads present kind of their thing for the year. We can go ahead and start the discussion if we end early. Otherwise, the discussion among the board and the administrative team will be on Saturday. And that will lead the budget committee and the town staff with a good place to get us into the next fiscal year.
Cool.
Everybody good? All right, great. Moving on to reports, town manager.
It's good to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's all.
All right, wonderful.
Were you able to look into the vaccination clinic ability for that, the health department that I had asked about?
Not since vacation, no.
Okay.
I will follow. We did talk to health department about, when we had our outbreak, they gave us a supply of the rapid tests and we're running low. We contacted them. They do not have any more rapid tests to give us. So that was what we were hoping to do. They've said, you know, if we need them, their recommendation, come and get in line because their drive-through works pretty well. I've not followed up with them about trying to do a remote. They've requested help for their existing facility. They put out a call to all the towns to see if we could loan them staff support for their existing facility for traffic control, things like that. My sense is that they are not equipped as they were a year ago to do those kind of testing programs. I'll send Tony a note tomorrow and see if.
Yeah, he's really responsive. so.
Yeah.
I hope it's okay. You might, I don't know if you have it on your calendar yet, but there's gonna be a vaccination clinic at the church CLC on Saturday.
Okay, didn't realize.
Yeah,
Is able to do it.
yeah, but I mean, it's, I can tell you who's doing it. Yeah. I didn't know much about it either until all of a sudden it just popped up and they were doing it, so. It's from 9 to 3, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Clinic. Vaccination clinic.
Who's doing, putting that on, do you know, man?
The group name is not on here. It's some kind of a group, nonprofit, but I can't remember who's doing it.
Is it often?
But it could be. I just don't remember their name. I'm sorry. I can get it to you though. I'll get it to you.
Yeah, we could maybe put that on the town website. Would that be?
That'd
Okay.
be fine. Yeah, I think we need to pass the word. So,
Put it out on social media and see if we can get people there.
Okay. Randy, we'll start with you tonight.
well, I'm going to tell you about the vaccine clinic. But no,
Oh, well,
no,
okay.
I think that's good. I just want to be very aware that we're coming up on Martin Luther King weekend. And I just moved by the idea that of when we do the Pledge of Allegiance here, we value that very much, and we end it with and justice for all. I just want to make sure that we all work in that way. I still feel like there's some things that, and I can't wait for the retreat to talk about that, but feel like there's things that we can work on. So, make sure that our town is ahead of the curve. It's very important to me. I wanted to be able to say that.
No, I'd like to thank Bailey for at least showing up. I appreciate you including. Just don't have to ask me to. Okay? Anyway, thank you.
So I'm really concerned about COVID. I'm very concerned about the ongoing crisis that we are encountering. I've been talking to the folks at Cone Health. I am on their listserv now that anybody can get on. It's government affairs at Cone Health. It's for municipalities and for officials. And they will give you a countdown right now. The quote that they put on there is reduced availability of workforce at the hospital due to infection is a major threat. Okay, the numbers right now for Cone Health, and this doesn't just include Alamance County, it's also Guilford, Randolph, and Rockingham. There are 250 hospitalized. Out of that, 95% of them were not vaccinated. Average cases right now in Alamance County are 327 new cases in Alamance County. And I know that you had asked Rich before about if we could find out how many numbers were in Elon. There is a dashboard that you put in. The zip code, as Richard said, the 27244 dash code. Currently, there's been 3,587 cases of COVID with 30 deaths in our zip code, and our zip code covers Elon is the main town, and then if you take the total number of residents that they include in that, it's 14,173. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. That's 25% of that population is had COVID at this point. And the majority of people that are in, at least 95 to 96% that are in the hospitals have not been vaccinated, which means recently ARMC has had to shut down their emergency department and divert people to other places. So if my child was in a car accident, God forbid, or my husband had a heart attack, God forbid, they couldn't go down the street because people are not getting vaccinated and they are filling up our hospitals. And I'm very frustrated about it, if you can't tell from my voice. This county itself has one of the biggest percentages of transmission rates and the lowest vaccination rates, one of the lowest vaccination rates in our region, with 55% of our county being vaccinated only. We right now have not been told, or we cannot seem to find out what our vaccination rate is in the town of Elon government. And I'm very frustrated that we're not working toward promoting vaccinations within our own staff. This is to serve and protect is our job. It is our job to make sure that we are not out there infecting people when we're out there supposed to be protecting them. I know it's a very divisive issue, but if people don't want to vote for me in 4 years, then don't vote for me in 4 years. But I feel like I have a moral imperative right now with the amount of deaths and hospitalizations, now children, not just people that were in that class of being vulnerable. It's hitting everybody. And the fact that we are just ignoring the fact that we have science that can help us keep these folks from being hospitalized, and science that can keep these hospitals from being full so people that have other health problems are able to get the necessary treatment they need, is dumbfounding to me. I just returned from New York City. I went there. I know that we're not the same. Trust me, I'm not comparing us whatsoever to anything in that town at all. But what I will say is everywhere you go, even a fast food restaurant requires you to show a vaccination card and an ID before you are allowed in. Again, I'm prefacing that by not saying that I'm asking for that in any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like we have to do more. We have to do more. We can't just continue to go at the pace that we're going and not address this issue as a town. We just seem to overlook that we're almost 3 years into this now, and it's going to be Delta, then it's the next one, and then it's the next one, and it's the next one. You know, and I'm just waiting for my kid to not be able to go to school. They're not having bus service anymore for students in Guilford County. The kids are having to take the city buses to get to school. Like, at what point do we as a town say we have to step out of our comfort zone and do something? Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening.
Well, it's nice to be back. Everybody had a good holiday. My family welcomed a new addition to our family. I had a New Year's baby, Miss Scarlett Ann. And I look forward to the retreat as well. I feel like I'm excited that it's going to be more than a day. I think that's something we really needed. That I've only done 2 retreats. One was virtual, one was in person, and it did feel very rushed. And so I look forward to us having more time to have dialogue and to bring up topics for us to be able to discuss. I think it's something that is needed and is warranted. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the 25th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You getting any sleep?
Luckily, my wife is a champ in carrying the brunt of the work.
No, I'm looking forward to the retreat as well. I think we talked about the facilitator, and I thought she did a really good job, but I think in a way we might get more discussion done without one, because in the past we've had no facilitator, and I think we've done well with that. Now having said that, that may put more work on the staff, so maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but I think a day and a half is a great idea, and I do agree with Monty starting to put the whole day first with everybody, and then after that, kind of summation the next day. I think is a great idea. So I'm looking forward to it. Glad everybody's back from Christmas. Looking forward to the new year.
Absolutely. So just a couple of updates here. So I will be serving on the PTRC Board of Delegates, and it looks like also the Executive Committee. So I will know when that's news to you. So they were waiting on 2 more votes. So I will let you know. In terms of COVID, obviously you guys know by now, in case you didn't, I have to track this all day, every day for my job. And the numbers are certainly higher than they have ever been. So one of the benefits of my job is that I do get to speak to a lot of tremendous medical professionals, and most recently a virologist who does anticipate that we will have more variants, which I think all of them are saying that at this point. And we do anticipate that each variant will become less severe, but more contagious. So meaning that more and more people are going to continue to get sick until we do see something change. Vaccination rates are low here in Alamance County, and our positivity rate is high. So if we looked at the number of people in this room right now, if we took what our positivity rate is, there'd be 3 to 4 people in this room with COVID and not know it. And I can tell you that in tracking COVID with our employees, there's a lot of people that never have a single symptom, and a lot of symptoms are very strange. Things like back pain. I mean, I know 4 people here local who their only symptom was back pain. So it's not just what we saw a year ago. But, you know, like Stephanie said, you know, Quinn's got a little one at home, and while COVID may not affect him, it can affect, you know, the younger people who cannot get vaccinated. It can affect older people and immune compromised people. And I will tell you, we have very healthy young employees who are vaccinated and boosted and are very sick. So it's just really hard to tell. So please just be diligent. I'll also just share with the board out of transparency that I did talk to Rich about a mask mandate after speaking with a couple of very high level medical professionals. We decided against that, at least for now. So my thought was that this is the highest positivity rate that we have ever had. And initially it was, if it was like above 6%, then we should be having a mask mandate. We're at like almost 30% at this point. And the problem is that this variant seems to be evading a lot of mask wearing, and really they're looking at maybe looking at, should we be wearing an N95 or a KN95 at this point? And there's not enough of them out on the market still today. So just letting you all know that it is something that we have discussed. It's also something that I told Rich I didn't want to go forward with at this point, but I'm going to continue to watch it just to see how things are going and what we need to do. I also, you know, am in touch with business owners and cognizant of how what we do can impact them as well as the health of our residents. Do you have any comments to that before?
I mean, like you, I'm following the progression of this. I meet weekly with the folks at the university, and our initial topic tends to be COVID. Then we go to weekend activities. And it's, you know, it's a growing issue everywhere, at every level. You know, we've talked about vaccine mandates for town employees. We haven't gone that direction. I was, based on the information I had 4 months ago, probably, it looked like we were going to come in under the federal requirement. We are not coming in under the federal requirement, as they've clarified what they mean by employees. And clarification of what some of our numbers actually are in terms of volunteer firefighters and things like that. We come in, it was 86 or 87 employees. The threshold is 100. We're not required to mandate employees be vaccinated. We can certainly do that. You know, we can make that conscious decision to require that. I agree with you. It frustrates me to no end that we have people who refuse to be vaccinated, or who get vaccinated but refuse to tell anybody because they've either, for whatever reason. We do put information out to our employees regularly, and they take it or they don't take it. At this point, I don't have the tools to require them to get vaccinated. So it is frustrating. It would be much better, I think, if everybody were vaccinated. They still may be getting sick, but they're not gonna be on respirators. The good news is, our last police officer who was out with COVID from early November is, I believe he is coming back full-time this week. We had to make some arrangements to accommodate him at the PD, but he's finally coming back. That's how long he's been out, since that first week in November.
He had oxygen. I think I met him. He had oxygen.
Yeah.
He's carrying oxygen.
And oxygen generator.
Yeah.
So, it's a healthy person, and, hopefully he'll come out of this eventually, but I share your frustrations.
Do you get a sense, and guys, we're not gonna go down the rabbit hole, I promise, but do you get a sense that for those who are not vaccinated, that anything would encourage them? A conversation? I see lots of head shaking there, so.
I mean, we had these conversations internally. October probably, when this issue first started coming up. And the sense of department heads was that the people who are going to get vaccinated have gotten vaccinated. And the people who have not gotten vaccinated are not going to get vaccinated. And it's not a question of convincing them otherwise. Now, you start looking at things like mandates, then somebody has a choice. Do I get vaccinated? Do I quit my job? Whatever. Whatever the requirement is.
So this is a different board than it was 4 months ago. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine, I was done.
Last thought. When you say you don't have the tools, federally, I know the OSHA is sitting at the Supreme Court right now. I know that you said doesn't apply to us because we don't have the threshold of 100 employees. But the tool that you would need is for us to vote on it. And if we voted in favor of it, and I'm not saying that, you would have the tool.
If the board decides that we're going to mandate our employees to be vaccinated, that would be the tool to get people vaccinated. Or not, whatever the consequences if they're not vaccinated.
We don't have, it would be nice that we didn't have to make the decision. I mean, not nice, but it would be a different scenario if we didn't have to make the decision and the federal government mandated it to our state, OSHA, and then OSHA on to us. But at this point, there are tools in which we can use, and that's us, if that's what we decided to do.
That's
I mean,
great.
the fact that it's being challenged in the Supreme Court right now is really concerning. We're talking about mandating someone to do a medical procedure against their will. And I'm not anti-vaxxer, but I'm not going to say you're going to get a medical procedure because I think you should do that. When all along, when you said this, people are getting triple vaxxed. They're still getting sick. So that doesn't give any confidence in someone who's not vaccinated to get vaccinated. If we come to the approach where we're going to force people to make a medical decision and we lose key employees because of that, are we better off? As a town, are we better off?
Is the definition of tools just that vote, or is it also the availability of testing and vaccinations? You have plenty of that availability, because I saw you were having some.
We don't have, very
That's what's frustrating to me, is to see the lack of supply. Now, there's supposed to be a turnaround here soon. But again, let's keep an eye on this. And I think that what Stephanie is saying is that she's right. If we need to, if we feel like we need to do that, we can have that discussion.
There are multiple tools. There's vaccines. There's a tool of required testing.
Right.
Which doesn't do anything to that identifies people who are sick. I
You would
guess.
have to test everybody, Rich, and that's the point, is that whether you've been vaccinated or not, you have to test
Yeah.
everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not advocating, Monty.
That's not.
I'm
what's
saying
in the
that's a
Supreme
tool.
Court right now.
It's a tool.
That's a tool that we could go to mandatory testing. We could go to mandatory vaccines.
There are a lot of options.
We talked about incentives to get people to be vaccinated, and, you know, we were at 100 and we're talking $200 and $500. And, you know, we didn't go that direction to try and encourage it. You know, I don't know if it would have been effective. So
I've said it before, I'm for the vaccine 100%. But I think mandating that is just not constitutional. And I know the Supreme Court is looking at that, but, you know, I know a guy I play golf with, his wife had the vaccine, died the next day, was healthy. Not saying, now, having said that, that's an anomaly, no question about it. I'm not saying that vaccines are cause death by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're not giving that person that option, I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of people who are in need getting the vaccine, but clearly it doesn't prevent COVID.
As an employer, they do have an option. I mean, the option is you can either keep your job or get vaccinated if it was made a mandate.
or be tested.
Or be tested. That's what it's sitting at the Supreme Court right now. And it doesn't have to do with whether it works or doesn't work. All of us, when we went to school as kids, my poor kid had to have 1 million vaccinations. It's not a medical procedure. They had to have vaccinations to get into school. When my parents were growing up, they lined up in their school and all of them got polio shots so that they didn't have it. I don't want to go down this road. I'm just saying, as a group that's supposed to be representing a community and we're having our emergency department have to shut down because people aren't vaccinated, I feel like we need to be responsible. And I don't feel like having the same conversations about whether vaccines, it's somebody's constitutional right or not. It's not. It's called employment. And you can either decide what you want to do to be employed by a place or not. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. It's not a freedom. It's not there. It's not written in there.
We can debate that all night. So we're not.
It's not. My husband's a constitutional attorney. It's not there.
Yeah, my point is, we're not here to try to mandate folks here. At least I haven't heard that yet. And if it comes to that point, I think you're going to see a lot of division between our community and our employees. And as we said, there's two schools of thought. Is it going to make us feel better to have everybody vaccinated, but we still don't see any difference? People still get affected. They may not die. We don't know that. But as you said, when we were children, we got vaccinated. Those were vaccines that were approved, FDA approved. They were approved. The vaccines now are not approved. They're experimental drugs. They're just experimental drugs. And so when you start telling people you're going to take an experimental drug,
Well, they have full approval now.
but they haven't gone through the same regimen.
They
They
did.
have full approval now.
They haven't gone through the same regimen for testing
They
as the
have.
polio and
They've had even
smallpox.
more people in the studies.
In the past, they were 5 years of testing the long-term effects. When you start talking about it may affect the menstruation of women, that's something to be concerned. And that's why a lot of people, there's not a lot of facts out there about the long-term effects. We haven't had the luxury to see what the effects are. So for us to start talking about what we think somebody should do medically, I think we're out of our place to do that. I just feel that, we're talking about medical things. None of us have a medical doctorate degree. None of us are virologists. We may have talked to people, but we don't know. And start telling people.
Well, for the
we don't
record,
do
I do have a
something.
master's degree in health promotion. I'm qualified to do your annual physical, just the same as your medical doctor,
Well, thank you.
but
I'll pass.
I'm not a virologist. Okay, we're gonna move on, because I think that this is a bigger discussion than is in our reports. My personal thought on this is that we don't know how many people are vaccinated. I still think we need to know that. Because we could be spinning around and having conversations and we might have 6 people who aren't vaccinated. And we're having a whole lot of conversations about it and it's almost irrelevant at that point. If, if it's 80% are not vaccinated, this is a different conversation. That's my opinion. My other thought is that we do also have to think about the services that the town offers. And if 90% of, I'm just gonna say a department, I have no idea. If 90% of public works is unvaccinated and we say, hey, you have to get vaccinated by this date, and they say no, we have a whole service that is lost. So we have to see it from that perspective and business continuity. And I've looked at business continuity from, we want everyone to be vaccinated for business continuity, but we also want to maintain business continuity if we have a mandate in place. So I think that it's a bigger conversation than what we can really have right now. And I do think we need to know the numbers, and we keep coming back to that.
So we can do, yeah.
So, okay. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is we're closed on MLK Day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that was the last thing that I wanted to make sure that was on the public record.
It will be closed this coming Monday.
Any other comments, thoughts, questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.